Hey folks, thanks for joining me tonight for another video. I hope you all had a nice Christmas holiday. Ate some good food and whatnot. We sure did. We had a ham dinner with green bean casserole and mashed potatoes, and it was really good. We had a nice dinner going for that holiday there. Anyway, I'm here to talk about, show you another record and a board game. And tonight's record is Jane's Addiction, right here. This one is Nothing Shocking. Now, this came out in 1988. I think I first heard of these guys back in the early 90s when I was going to school or going to college. I used to go to the bars a lot. I was a college kid. So I hit the bar scene quite a bit on the weekends. And that's probably where I first heard these guys. Was on the jukebox in one of the bars. Because I live in a college town here, as some of you already know. And we have a college radio station here called KJHK. It's still going today. They played a lot of alternative style college music. I don't know if you would call it that, but that's where I heard a lot of these groups in the 90s, and one of them was Jane's Addiction right here. And this went all the way to 103 on the Billboard 300 chart at some point during that period. It was number 312 on Rolling Stone's Greatest Albums of All Time. Perry Farrell is in this group, and he had a lot of groups besides Jane's Addiction that he ended up being with kind of after they had their period and went away for a while, but he was still going in other groups. And about the same time, I remember a group called Porno for Pyros, and he was in that, and I had a cassette tape. And I believe that's they only released one album of Porno for Pyros, or maybe two. I'm not really sure. That's something I should have looked up. Anyways, this is one of my favorite albums from back then. This one and Nirvana's Nevermind were all out about the same time. Oh, and another one's Pearl Jam. Came out about then too. I think it was called 10 or something like that. But Jane's Addiction. And some of the trivia back then was one of the big songs was "Roll With It" by Steve Winwood. You might remember him from Blind Faith, and the Box Tops, was it, or one of those bands, and several others. But anyway, I remember he was here several months ago, and they were charging $150 a ticket, and I just couldn't afford that at that point when he came here a few months ago and played in Kansas City in one of the small venue type club there, and that's probably why they was charging so much to get in. But anymore, they charge that much for almost any concert. Anyways, and some of the other trivia was the movies that came out in 1988 was Rain Man, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Coming to America. Nike shoes just started their Just Do It campaign. Now you go all over the place and there's you see people in these Nike, the swoop emblem that's on their shirts, and it says something different on the bottom besides Just Do It. It says other various stuff. A notable event that happened was James Brown was involved in a big car chase when he was on PCP, and he was arrested for assaulting an officer and an unlicensed firearm, and he ended up doing 3 years in prison for that. And a board game in 1988 was a board game called Mall Madness. And it was basically a game, I think it was geared for girls. And the object of the game was to go around in this mall and shop for things. And we all know shopping and shoes and things like that for young girls back then. Um, Now I got a couple of Christmas presents this year, and a couple of them was board games because they all know I'm into these board games now besides the records. And Connie, she got me this board game here, The King of Tokyo. A game about monsters basically like King Kong and Godzilla fighting each other in Tokyo. And I'm sorry, but some of this is probably flushed out because it has green in it, and I'm using this green screen now in my videos because I'm filming these a lot in the garage and I don't want you to see all my junk in the back. So if if you can see through parts of this, it's because it's green and I'm using a green screen, and that messes up parts of the picture that I'm trying to show. But the object of this game is basically your two to four monsters fighting each other over Tokyo, and you want to get in there and smash everything, and you don't want anybody else getting in the way. And here's the game board for it. There it is. It's a little small game board, as you can see. But it's a lot more than that. There's cards that go with it and dice, and you got your monsters. Here's just an example of one. This is the king. He's basically a King Kong, but he's like a cyborg King Kong. And here's one of the cards that's with it. You're trying to collect these cards here to gain different powers and things against your foe. And this one is an extra head, and it says you get one extra dice, which means you get one extra dice roll on your turn, so that you can try to get do more effects to your opponent. And throughout the game, you're trying to buy these cards, which would up here. You see a 7 up here. This would cost 7 little points, which you collect to buy this card, and you can whip this out on your opponent anytime you want and use an extra dice pretty much on every roll with this. And here's a little another part of it. This is a scorekeeper. Up here is keeps track of your points, and if you get all the way up to 20 points, you win that way. Or down here is your health. Yeah, you dial these around, and when you're affected by the other monster or wounded, your health goes up and down. And if you go all the way down to 0 health, you end up with a little skull inside of there, and that means your monster died, pretty much. Now, there's 2 different ways of winning this. You can win by points up here if you make it to 20 points, or if your opponent loses all of his health and he dies. And that's my little short video for today. And next time I'll be showing another record and another board game that I got for Christmas called Azul. That's just a little preview. And lastly, I want to thank everybody for making your nice comments below. I should be saying that more often, but I always forget. But thanks a lot for your comments and your likes. And thank you to my subscribers for checking me out. We're getting ready to go into a new year here. And Colin, over and out. And Weirdos Unite.